Skirt, skirt. Told you we always been ready. I don't need people that's petty, that weigh on me heavy while I'm being steady. I need a record with Felly. We get it bouncing like Betty's, I feel like I'm Nelly. Don't bring the beef like a deli, it's leaving I levy. No sleeping on me like I'm Freddy. Chris Breeze, how I do, hit him with the moves. Left hand step back, ballin' like I'm Coos. All faith, God's plan, you just gotta choose. God slaps, nothing left to prove. Y'all gotta leave me alone. Lately I've been in my zone. Told them no cap like I fitted, but lately the flows have been straight off the dome. I feel like I'm MVP, like my name Patty Mahomes. If it ain't about money, don't hit on my phone, cause lately I've been in my zone.
Hello, welcome to the Cowboy Show, hosted by Ben Carey and Nick Gronerad, combining expert human opinions with cutting-edge simulation models to help you arrive at the best picks each week. Inside Edge Community. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's stream. We've got some Thursday night football action. Pittsburgh Steelers, Minnesota Vikings. Ben, how you feeling about this game?
Well, I feel good now because I think I got some good news, and it seems that Dalvin Cook is playing, according to Fantasy Football Yahoo.
I mean, I don't know a single more reliable source than Fantasy Football Yahoo.
Top 5.
Top 5 most reliable sources? Yeah, I'm showing it also on Roto World, which is my go-to for injury updates because they only post stuff that's been vetted. So they're showing Dalvin Cook is in. I believe that's the big one. I mean, Adam Thielen on the Vikings is out today. I'm showing Joe Hayden on Pittsburgh is out. I don't exactly know how breaking or surprising that news is, but he's out. Ben Roethlisberger's playing. I mean, he's been banged up. He's been banged up for the last 10 years, at least.
He's always unquestionable.
Yeah, but he is playing. I believe Chase Claypool is playing. Full participant at practice earlier this week, despite him being a little bit banged up as well. But that's the major injury news. I mean, I think that Cook being in and Thielen being out are the two big ones. We'll jump into the impact that those are going to have when we get to the prop rundown. But for now, kind of just high level, what are you thinking about this game?
Well, first of all, the Vikings are a team that have caused me to almost jump off a cliff. The times I bet on them, they get close and then they don't cover. But as a game as a whole, it's a big game for both teams. I mean, they both need a win tonight. I guess you could say teams always need a win, but I think it's important tonight. Like they want to stay in the playoff contention. There's a narrative out there that we've heard in the past with Kirk Cousins in primetime. I don't have the stats, but I've seen that floating around. People blindly betting against the Vikings because of that, which I think is a bad idea. But on the other side, yeah, like you mentioned, Big Ben, just how healthy is he, right? That does definitely scare me a little bit, even though they're coming off a good game. But one game doesn't change my opinion on something like that. Also, he's just getting old, too. Father Time is undefeated. So definitely those are the two big storylines headed into this one, I would say.
Yeah, Ben, can you check and see if you can turn your volume up on your microphone?
Turn it up?
Yes. Yeah. There's a couple of people saying that. I can kind of adjust my headset volume, which is what everybody hears.
Yeah, 1 second.
But I don't really want to do that because then I'm like screaming into my own ears.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
All right.
But you could respond to what I said.
But yeah, I agree. And I think that another thing that's important here is the playoff implications of this game. Both of these teams are kind of fringe wild card teams, I would say. Steelers are 6-5-1 right now. Vikings are 5-7, and in the conferences that these teams are in, I mean that's kind of right there. I mean, at 5-6-1, the Steelers are behind the Bills for a wild card spot. They're behind the Bengals for a wild card spot. They're behind the Colts for a wild card spot, and they're behind the Chargers. But they're only a half a game behind that first wildcard spot. So with a win tonight, they move up into a tie. Those other teams pending for that number 1 wildcard spot, and they could very, very well make a push for the division as well, especially with how beat up the Baltimore Ravens are. On the Vikings side of thing, at 5-7, the only thing that looks like a certainty is the Rams, wildcard wise. They're 8-4. Aside from that, there's nobody in wildcard position better than 6-6. So the 5-7 Vikings, if they can pick up a win tonight, they'll move to 6-7 and move to within a half a game of all of those 6-6 teams. And I really wouldn't be surprised this year if we see like an 8-9 wildcard team coming out of the NFC.
Yeah. I would not be shocked. I guess as a Broncos fan, I should be cheering for the Vikings tonight. So, well, that is if we want to make the playoffs, which that's a whole nother conversation.
What do you mean if we want to make the playoffs?
Okay, well, let me take a step back.
It's not like you're going to win the draft lottery.
Yeah, I guess I take that back. Well, no, I think about this, Nick. If the tiebreaker goes to the Steelers for whatever reason over the Broncos, we would have one pick better than them, right?
Would you trade up in the draft one spot in exchange for a playoff berth?
I guess this isn't the NBA, so no.
No, you wouldn't.
If it was the NBA,
in the NBA, absolutely. I'd much rather have a couple ping pong balls in the machine as opposed to an 8 seed in the playoffs. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and we've done the numbers on 8 seeds. Like they don't be 1 seeds in NBA.
No, it's happened like twice or something.
Yeah, and I adjusted my mic, so hopefully it's a little better.
Yeah, let us know. So I'm trying to turn the input volume down on my end, so I'm not screaming at myself. It's kind of hard to concentrate when I'm doing that. So Ben,
I think it should be good. I turned it up a little bit, but
okay, I can see the bar in the mixer, and it's low. So yeah, I guess I'm just gonna scream at myself today, but that's okay. So lines in this game. We have the Vikings currently favored by 3.5 points. This has been fluctuating a little bit throughout the week. We've seen it in the 4 range. We've seen it, I think, even at like 4.5. But we've come all the way down to 3.5 now, especially with the Thielen news. Yeah. And total is currently sitting at 44.5. So what we have model-wise is a 25.9 to 20.58 win for the Vikings. So from the model's perspective, that is a Vikings cover and an over. And I actually like the feel of both of those picks. I think at home, the Vikings are in a good spot here. Both of these teams are quite inconsistent. I'd say that they're 2 of my least favorite teams to bet on, just in a vacuum. We say every week with the Vikings, I feel like when we're on them, they lose, and when we fade them, they win. And with the Steelers, a lot of the inconsistency just comes down to the performance of Ben Roethlisberger. There's some weeks where he looks like classic Ben, plays a great game, and there's some weeks where he's fantastic, or where he's the opposite of fantastic, where he really tries his hardest to make the Steelers fans wish it was next year. So Ben, what are you thinking? You agree, disagree, abstain?
I'm abstaining because I think this number is right where it should be. Total wise goes. As far as you want to get to the spread?
Yeah.
Okay. So the 3.5, it's always like a tough number, right? Because people assume that it's not at 3, so there's no value there. But I think sometimes it can kind of just immediately someone looks at it and they're on the other side, right? And I think an average person would see that with the Steelers tonight. But man, the Vikings, like I said, they burned me a few times. So I got to go with the Vikings here. 3.5, minus 3.5. but I am not that confident, as you could probably tell in my voice.
Yeah, and I think it's important to emphasize that this is not an official pick. This is just a lean. And I think with the prime time streams, it's kind of stupid of us to come on here and say, "Hey, everyone, come watch the stream," and then we just say, I don't like anything.
Yeah.
So we'll go with the Vikings for sure. I think they're in a good spot, and I'm going to trust the model, especially with it liking a home favorite. That's a little unusual. Usually the kind of thing that the model likes is the dog, if anything. So we'll go with the Vikings here. What about the total? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I think the total is kind of where it should be at. I kind of lean under just a tad, but I don't know. 45 seems like it's a good number.
Yeah, I'm showing this variably at either 44.5 or 45, depending on the book. So on DraftKings and Superbook, we have a 45. PointsBet's showing a 44.5. I think at 44.5, I feel a little bit more comfortable in the over. I think 45, 46 is kind of where it ends up. The model's got it at like between 46 and 46.5. So not a huge difference there. But since you're leaning the under and me and the model kind of both lean over, we will fade the total here.
Yeah, I think that's a good move.
All right. And so are the volumes good? I went in and tinkered with my Discord settings, and Snook said that helped. If there's any kind of change that still needs to be made, let us know, or let me know. If the volumes are unequal at all, I can still go in and try and adjust stuff.
Yeah, I wonder what happened, because I know I didn't really mess with it.
I don't know. So my output volume on Discord was lower. I think that there was something that we did where I had to mess with that, maybe. Although nobody's said, I think that was a while ago, and nobody's said anything the last couple streams. So I don't know.
Who knows?
Not me, that's for sure. So let's go ahead and take a look at the prop market. And as always, we're going to start out with passing props. Both of these guys are pretty much at the same number. Kirk Cousins, 258.5. Ben Roethlisberger is at 257.5. Anything you like here?
I personally bet Kirk Cousins at 252 about 2 hours ago.
You bet what side of that?
Over. I went with his over.
At 252.5. Yeah, I was looking at these earlier, and I was showing a 255.5. So these are slowly creeping their way up.
Which I'm kind of... It doesn't surprise me, but at the same time, with Dalvin Cook in, you would almost think that would drop the number, maybe. But I guess
potentially, or maybe the other thing is just closer to game time. You have more casual people saying, "Oh, let me get some action."
Yeah,
and what do those people do? They bet overs.
Yeah, on Kirk Cousins,
on anybody, right?
Well, I guess so, but if you're picking one guy to play an over on, it's probably going to be Kirk Cousins, right? Over Big Ben.
I would say so.
Yeah.
So one thing I found really interesting, as I was doing some research for this, is how consistent, relatively speaking, Ben Roethlisberger's passing yard number is week to week. So let me pull this up real quick. So Ben Roethlisberger hasn't had a game below 200 yards or above 275 yards since week 3. Win or lose, rain or shine, or tie even. He's always in that range. And this 257.5 number is in that range. I think Ben Roethlisberger is one of the easier quarterback number fades that we've seen in a while. I think that there's really nothing that dictates whether he's going to be in the 230, 240 range or the 250, 260, 270 range. I would probably lean under if I had to. But I think Roethlisberger, this number is spot on.
Yeah, I agree. When I was looking at this, I was going back and forth on it, and I really have no opinion, because he's gonna get, like you said, his 220-ish. It's kind of his floor, but at the same time, I just don't see him like going for 300 tonight, unless they're down big. So it just
High
seems
floor, low
like
ceiling.
a good number. Yeah.
Yeah, Ben, I'm getting a ton of Discord notifications. Is there like something going on in there?
I don't think so.
Okay. Oh, or are people just squad writing? Oh,
I posted one.
you posted one. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that nothing was on fire.
No, I think we're good.
Okay, that's good. All right. I had like suddenly 3 push notifications. I was like,
Oh.
Okay. But anyways, yeah. So what's your take on Cousins? So why did you bet this over earlier? And do you still? I mean, obviously not as much since it's moved up by a couple of yards, but do you still like it?
I just think it's a low number, and I think that was partly because Adam Thielen's out. But I don't really. I see him going over. I just think that the way the Vikings have been playing, even with Cook in, I don't think they're going to pound the ball to Dalvin Cook.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm actually a little surprised he's playing, to be honest. He's not 100%. I don't think he's 100%. So I don't think Cook is going to get a majority of the carries. And with Madsen in, he will be, used out of the backfield a little more. So I think with everything, I just think 255 is that points bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that 255, 258, I guess I still like it, but yeah, I mean, it's 3 yards at a higher number. I just think that, Kirk Cousins, too, I also think maybe the narrative of how he's performed in prime time has dropped this number a little lower, but I think he's going to go for 270 tonight.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to the rushing prop market. Usually a long list, but today we only have 3 guys.
Nice.
We have Dalvin Cook over under 64.5. Kirk Cousins over 3.5 on the side of the Vikings, and then on the Steelers side we have Najee Harris over under 71.5. So is there anything here that kind of tickles your fancy at all?
Well, I'm seeing the Dalvin Cook number for the first time.
Yeah, also, sorry, my dog is going crazy, if anybody can hear that.
So a prop that I was looking at, Nick, was the over for Harris with his rushing and receiving yards, and I think it was 105.
I have some interesting stats about this.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so Najee Harris. I looked at this rushing number, 71.5, and I think you're right that the rushing plus receiving is right about 105.5. This is entirely dependent on whether the Steelers win or lose. If the Steelers win, it's going over. If they lose, it's going under. And I feel really strongly about that. So in the 5 games that the Steelers have lost this year, Najee Harris has maxed out at 15 carries. He's been between 8 and 15 carries in all of those games. In the games that the Steelers have won or tied, he had 16, which is still higher than that 15 in the very first game of the season, the first game of his career. Every other time, he's had at least 21 carries. So a huge difference in his workload between wins and losses, which is not so surprising, but it is surprising to see such a clean cut between the wins and the losses. I mean, you're looking at 15 or less versus 21 or more, without fail. Yardage-wise, Harris has not gone over this number once in a loss. He's had 38, 40, 62, 39, and 23. In wins, he's gone over this number 4 times. He's had 45, 122, 81, 91, 62, 105, 71. So it's over 4 times and a 71, which lost on the hook once as well. If you're looking at the rushing plus receiving, he's gone over it only 1 time in those 5 losses. And he's gone over it 5 times out of 8 wins or ties.
Wow.
Or out of 7 wins or ties, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you'd expect it to be, like, more likely to hit in a win than a loss. But I think it's surprising to see it separated like that to such an extreme degree.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
Hey, look.
Now, the receiving and rushing, that could be a little different, right?
No. I was saying he's the rushing plus receiving. That number he's gone over.
I thought we were speaking strictly.
I talked about both.
Okay.
But yeah, so the rushing has gone over this 0 out of 5 in losses. Rushing plus receiving has gone over the corresponding number once out of 5 in a loss. And the rushing number has gone over this 4 out of 7 plus another loss on this hook in wins, and the rushing plus receiving has gone over 5 out of 7 wins. Mm-hmm. So I think long story short, all of the Najee Harris props, you'd be better off just betting a Steelers money line.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
If you like the overs.
So anything with Dalvin Cook?
No. I think there's a lot of question marks about Dalvin Cook's workload with him coming back from this injury. I think so. The model has Cook at 66-ish. His prop is at 64. Also, you can see the big difference in Harris's number, which is, I think, corresponding with the fact that we have Minnesota winning. And Minnesota's favored, so Harris isn't going to get so much run tonight.
Yeah, I almost lean under there with Cook, but again, I'm not going to try to play around with that because if he is healthy and gets a decent amount of carries, he could fly over that. So
Dalvin Cook already before this last game, he's already had 2 games where he's missed with an injury. One of those times it was in week 3 he missed. Week 4 he came back and only had 9 carries for 34 yards. The other time he missed a game, he missed week 5 as well. He came back after that one in week 6 and had 29 carries for 140 yards. So I think the spectrum is wide for
That's
Dalvin
what we call
Cook.
Playing with fire right there.
Mm-hmm. I think that the Dalvin Cook prop is completely playing with fire. It just as much almost as the Harris is.
So DraftKings doesn't have Mattison's number up?
No, I don't see a number for Madison on there. I didn't see one earlier.
But
Not on PointsBet. Let me check Superbook.
Yeah, because I get that. I mean, if it was sitting at, I don't know, like 55, 60, and then Cook's out, right, then it jumps up. But then if he's in, like it is now, it's going to drop down to, I don't know, 30-something. So
yeah, and it's so workload dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tom just wants to do whatever we say not to do. And then it's like the jinx, and then the reverse jinx, and then the reverse goat whale locks jinx.
Yeah, and then you're like,
lock jinx.
Is he actually on the opposite of what he's saying?
Yeah, nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Yep.
I don't even think Tom knows. So J Swan says, get right game for the Vikings. Harris has Tomlinson, Pierce, Kendricks, and Barr all playing together for the first time this season. Vikings run D should be on point. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, and it's a good offense to kind of have that get right game against. Because I mean, they're fairly one-dimensional in some sense. I mean, the running game is really good for them. Getting the ball to Najee Harris out of the backfield is good for them. Even in the passing game. But again, like Roethlisberger is so consistent with his passing yards, kind of regardless of what happens. And then Najee Harris is so all over the place, just depending on whether they're up or whether they're down. So I think that if the Vikings can get any kind of lead in this game, having those run pieces available to them, I think it's the run D pieces available. I think it's definitely a good spot. Tom says Dede Westbrook over 18.5 receiving. We will get to that in a second. I actually didn't see a number for Westbrook earlier, although maybe now that the running back situation's finalized, there'll be more receiving props available for the Vikings. Snook says Cousins, 22.5 completions.
I don't really have a take on that. I mean, I guess I'd lean over since I'm leaning over on his yards.
Yeah.
Naturally, but...
Yeah, I don't know how much Thielen being in or out affects that completions number. I mean, I guess it doesn't, aside from just the downgrade in receiver quality. So
Is it a downgrade?
Yeah, it is. unless you're a big Dede Westbrook fan.
Well, Osborne. But...
Well, I mean, Osborne's been in the offense, right? But I don't think I don't think Osborne's stepping into the Thielen role. I think Osborne's just going to stay in the slot, right?
It's hard to say.
It is hard to say.
You would think so,
I would assume Osborne they're gonna use him more. I have some stats on that also.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be in more or less the same role.
But it is similar. It is interesting though that I feel like Thielen and we'll get to that. We can move on.
Speaking of getting to that, I mean, let's go ahead and talk about.
Let's get into it.
Some receiving props. So, is there a team that you'd like to start with?
Yeah, let's talk about the Vikings and Osborne plus money. Oh, it's at 3. No, I don't think it's plus money unless you got it somewhere else. But
yeah, or maybe it used to be. I was looking at that. I think that was like, oh yeah, we'll take a peek in a second.
Yeah. So the Vikings.
Yeah, so we got CJ Hamm. That's a weird guy to have a prop for. Over under 6.5.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook over under 13.5. Dede Westbrook 18.5. Justin Jefferson. And KJ Osborne both. They're playing with us here. Mm-hmm. They're offering on Jefferson over 93.5 and under 88.5. So, I mean, we're just getting scammed 5 yards, and they switched the spots of them.
Yeah, why? Like, what's going on?
I really think that DraftKings is trying to scam people here.
So wait, KJ Osborne is also in the wrong spot.
Yeah, KJ Osborne's also switched, and there's also a huge difference, right? They're offering over 42.5 or under 34.5. Mm-hmm. You can't bet under 42.5.
I've honestly never seen that before.
No, this is weird
because it's not an error at this point. It's they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I guess they're.
So I'm gonna go look at.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about that. Like I'm
no, they deserve an angry tweet. Is what they deserve. So PointsBet has Justin Jefferson over under at 95.5 and KJ Osborne at 45.5. So pretty close to these over numbers that are being offered by DraftKings, but still. So that's weird. Other guys, we've got Tyler Conklin over under 38.5, and I guess that's the only other guy. Mm-hmm. So I guess the first two guys to talk about are these two weirdos, Jefferson and Osborne. They're the two that are probably stand to receive some more attention with Adam Thielen out. So do you have any thoughts here?
Yeah, so KJ Osborne, it's hard to say how well he's going to play with Thielen out. Mm-hmm. But I think naturally with this offense, he's going to get a fair amount of targets. And he has had games where he's had 6-7 targets with Thielen in, right? Mm-hmm. But at 42.5, that's pushing it a little bit. And this is just so weird because I'm looking at this 34. I'm like, how do I even approach this? But looking at like his skill set, it's actually more similar to Thielen than you would think. But I don't know, like we were discussing, does he replace him or is it more he stays in the slot? I honestly don't know.
And yeah, Jason's completely right. He did step up big last week when Thielen went out. So what I think is interesting is Thielen this year has had 7+ targets in all but 1 week, and he's been hovering right around 95% snap share. So he's not one of these receivers who's good but is playing 75-80% of the snaps. Like every single snap, there's going to be somebody new on the field. Mm-hmm. So Jason's saying Dede's going to get moved into the slot. Okay.
Yeah, that's just my guess from more of just the talent standpoint. But again, we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so So last week, KJ Osborne. So I guess before last week, KJ Osborne had been hovering right around 50% snaps. I mean, he was within 5 or 6% of that 7 or 8 weeks running. Last week, after Thielen went out, he was up to 92% snap count.
Yeah.
And on that, he had 4 catches on 7 targets for 47 yards and a touchdown. So if he is up in that 90% snap count range, even if it's down in like the 80-85% range, it's still a huge upgrade. I mean, that's going to be an extra 15-20 plays that he's on the field for. And if it's up into that 90-95% range, it's an extra 25-30 plays that he's on the field for.
And also, Nick, on top of that, the Lions game, there was an injury, right? You kind of got thrown in there. But with this one, at least they have a few days to game plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that just helps Osborne's case even more so. I actually like the receptions over 3.5, especially if it's at plus money now. I almost like that more than over 42.5. And the reason why is because I was kind of going through some of his game logs this year. And again, it's hard because those were games when Thielen was healthy. But his average reception is under 10 yards, which isn't super low for a receiver, but he's not a guy who's upwards of 12, 13. So I do think they're going to try to get him more involved in the short passing game to try to take over how Thielen usually runs routes and such, and then Jefferson is more the deep threat. So I like the over 3.5 receptions, probably the best out of all the receivers tonight.
Yeah, so that's sitting at plus 100 on DraftKings right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Osborne's average yards per catch this year is 11.8, by the way.
Oh, it is 11?
Yeah, I mean, he had like a couple of games where he had like 1 catch for 5 yards. So that's under 10.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at individual game logs, it'll be like that, but over the course of the whole season, average yards per reception is about 12. So, yeah, I mean, I think...
maybe I was looking at they were averaging that total amount together versus like the net. I mean, on a game by game, it's a small sample size, so it's going to be widely variable. I mean, you could look at other games and say he had back-to-back games where he was averaging 20 yards per catch. And I know one game he had a 69-yard touchdown, I believe. So
yeah,
of course that was the one that probably skewed a little bit of that data.
But either way,
yeah,
I think on that average, the receptions and the yardage feel about right. I think that they're probably either going to both hit or both miss, is the way that I think about it. And I think it's a little square, but I do like the overs as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what about Jefferson?
Yes, especially that it's plus money. But Jefferson, I actually think Jefferson is maybe even the squarer play.
Yeah, I mean, this number's high. 93.5 on DraftKings, 95.5 on PointsBet. The model has him at 99.5.
I mean, he has the big playability, so you always have to account for that.
So yeah, I mean, Jefferson, huge game last week after Thielen went out. 11 catches on 14 targets for 182 yards. Wow. I mean, is he going to replicate that? Probably not. But still. I mean, I'd expect for sure 10-plus targets going Jefferson's way tonight.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot of looks. I'm very curious how the Steelers look to defend him.
Yeah, we'll see. And Joe Hayden is out also. I don't know if Joe Hayden would have been the guy who was on him anyways. I mean, it's certainly not a shadow corner, so it doesn't really matter all that much. But that is worth noting.
Yeah, and 7.5 receptions. I mean, that definitely is a lot.
It is.
Especially if Dalvin Cook comes back in and, they're... Again, I don't think they're going to give Dalvin Cook, and I don't even know, 15.
Well, we'll see. I mean, again, his 2 games coming back from injury, he had 9 and then he had like 26 or something. Yeah. So I'm not going to speculate on Dalvin Cook at all.
Yeah, I think with the number that high for Jefferson, that's definitely correlated with how Cook plays. Like if Cook gets 20, what was the number? 20 what?
26.
If he gets 26 carries, I don't think Jefferson hits over either of these numbers.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it could be close, but
I mean, I think if
that's a
Dalvin
big
Cook
factor.
gets 26 carries, the Vikings have had 38 minutes time of possession in this game.
Yeah, and also they're probably up big, maybe. So
Yeah. So Minka Fitzpatrick, I think he's a safety. He'll help over the top on Jefferson, but he won't be man-to-man on him. So I guess the only other super interesting guy, at least for me, on the Vikings is Tyler Conklin, who's another guy who maybe looks to pick up some of these extra snaps that are going to be vacated by Thielen being out. So his number is 38.5. Model has him at 41.5 or so. I'm a little indifferent
yeah, me too.
on this. I think it's kind of right where it should be. His production's been pretty up and down. He's even with Thielen in the lineup, he's been hovering around 85% of snap count. He hasn't had below that since week 5. And this is, again, win or lose. I mean, last week he was up to 95%, so that's another 10 to 15% of the snaps. But I don't know that extra 10 to 15% of the snaps and the corresponding increase in targets it is enough to move him over the like from the 30 33 yards a game up into this 35 to 40 range. I think this number is kind of right where it should be. Is my take for Conklin.
I have no strong opinion either way.
So Tom was talking about Dede Westbrook. So that's a potential interesting one. This number wasn't up earlier when I was looking. I think a lot of the Viking stuff was down, aside from Jefferson and Osborne and Conklin, while folks were waiting to see if Dalvin Cook was going to officially be playing or not. So the model has Westbrook down at like 13 receiving yards. Although if there's a guy who's going to see a big increase in snaps, I mean, Osborne is certainly going to be that guy to an extent. And Westbrook is probably the other guy who's going to fill those snaps. Again, Thielen's racking up 95% of snaps. So those snaps have to get distributed elsewhere. So if we think that Osborne's going to go from 55 to 90, that's 45%. If Conklin's going to go from 80 to 95, that's another 15%. So that's 60. But there's still 30% of snaps to 40% of snaps unaccounted for that have to go somewhere. And Westbrook's probably that guy.
Yeah, last week, 42% for Westbrook.
Yeah, I mean, and he's been rocking single digits.
Yeah, and
So,
I know he
yeah.
only had 2 targets, one reception, but that number is something that's going to be more indicative of if he has a bigger game, right? Then
Yeah,
9%.
That's where the rest of the snaps are going.
Yeah,
And that's also probably we have a number for CJ Hamm, the fullback, at
gotta
6.5. I mean,
put
he'll
him
be
there.
on the field a little bit more too.
that's actually not a bad angle. That over. I mean,
For Westbrook, yeah, it's just a matter of, is he actually going to get looks, or is he just going to
Yeah.
be running sprints on the field?
yeah. Or can he just get that one catch and hit his number, and then you're good. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
I would definitely lean that way, but I'm not betting that.
Yeah, I think the Westbrook over, I like that more than the Conklin for sure, as one of the second tier guys who could step up. Dalvin Cook and CJ Hamm kind of stay away from the backs here. Again, just a lot of question marks. We don't know how much time CJ Hamm will be on the field because he's a fullback. And again, Cook, I don't want to touch him. Jason Vernon, 69. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So yeah, that is the Vikings. Let's talk about the Steelers. Unless you've got anything else for the Vikings, or unless anybody in the chat's got any Vikings receiving questions.
I'm ready to talk about the Steelers. Plenty of guys to talk about over there.
I have a receiving prop on the Steelers that I love. We'll
Let's
see.
hear it.
We'll see what it is. I'm
Start-
gonna run
start-
through everybody. So we've
You
got
get us so excited.
Chase Claypool over under 50.5. We've got Deontay Johnson over under 82.5. James Washington 11.5. Najee Harris 29.5. Pat Fryermuth 36.5. Ray McLeod 13.5. Zac Gentry 7.5.
I think I know who it is.
Who is it?
Is it Fryermuth?
It's not Fryermuth.
Okay.
It's Zac Gentry.
Oh, Zac Gentry.
At 7.5. Yeah. And this has been fluctuating between 6.5 and 7.5.
Over?
Over. Yeah. I think that this is a kind of sneaky spot. So I've got some numbers. So Eric Ebron is out for the Steelers. In the 4 games that Ebron has missed, Zac Gentry has played 50+% of the snaps, 3 of those games. So Fryermuth is taking the Ebron role. Gentry's taking the Fryermuth role as that number 2 tight end. So 61% of the snaps in week 8, 3 catches on 5 targets for 39 yards for Gentry. Week 9, 51% of the snaps, goose eggs across the board. That's kind of weird. Week 12, 35% of the snaps, 1 catch on 2 targets for 10 yards. And then last week, week 13, 50% of the snaps, 1 catch on 2 targets for 10 yards. The exact same stat line. So aside from that goose egg, he's seeing multiple targets across the board. 10+ yards every time. Again, aside from the goose egg. And I'm not expecting a goose egg. The Vikings allow quite a bit of volume to tight ends. They're averaging 6 targets allowed to tight ends, about 3.5 catches for 46 yards. I think Gentry only needs 1 catch to hit this number, but I think he'll be out there enough. But also potentially in a game where the Steelers are going to have to be throwing the ball a little bit more. I think Gentry, you'll see enough of the field that he'll get a check down or 2 thrown his way and hit to 7.5.
Sounds good to me. The only thing is if they are in those spread passing situations, is he on the field, or is it more?
Yeah, that's a
tight end set.
That's a good point.
But regardless,
I think the Steelers are a team for years that have liked to use multiple tight ends. Yeah. I mean, this year it's Fryermuth. It was Fryermuth and Ebron, and now it's Fryermuth and Gentry. And last year it was Ebron and who was the other guy they had last year?
I was just thinking about that. I'm trying to. Who it was?
I mean, I think they had Jesse James, but he wasn't the number 2. It's slipping me. I forget.
It might have
been Jesse James.
Jesse James, yeah.
But they had another guy that they like to use a lot, and it's been like that for years for the Steelers. So I think regardless, he's going to see the snaps. He's gonna get a couple targets, and he'll get 7.5 yards. Yeah, Vance Mcdonald. That's right. That's the one.
What's he doing?
I don't know.
I don't even know if he's.
I feel like he's not playing. I think he got hurt last year.
I mean, he started in 2013. He could retire.
Yeah, I mean, anyone could retire.
If you're watching, Vance, we miss you.
We do.
Actually, Nick doesn't miss you. He's a Ravens fan.
I have nothing against Vance Mcdonald. That'd be a really weird player to have a grudge against, right?
You see him and you're like, oh, that's Vance McDonald. Like, what the heck, man?
But yeah, I like Gentry. I think that the Fryermuth number is kind of right where it should be at 36.5. So in those same games without Ebron, Fryermuth has had 4 catches for 44 yards, 5 catches for 43, 4 for 40, 3 for 26. He's been between 71 and 78% of the snaps every game. So I think we're seeing a lot of consistency. 3 of those numbers are higher than this, but none of them are way higher than this. He's maxed out at 44. So I think that there is potentially a little bit of downside from that 40 number. I think he's a good bet to be between 33 and 43. And this is kind of right in the middle of that. Let's actually see what the model has to say.
Let's take a look.
Fryermuth at 34 for the model. Gentry's a little further down. It has him at 14. I guess I could go like this.
And 14.
Yep.
That's an over.
That is. I think that's right. 1.5 catches on 2.25 targets for 14 yards. Feels good to me.
Well, let's talk about those receivers, because I'm just curious what you think about Claypool and Johnson. Is the one guy who you like over the other?
No, there's not. I kind of want to avoid both of these guys. So Claypool has been kind of banged up. He's been battling a foot injury. It kind of looked like it was I think he missed a game, and then it looked like it was getting better. But his snap count was really low last week. He was down in the 50s. And I think we saw a big game correspondingly from Deontay Johnson. And Ben, we've talked about this earlier in the year too, right? These guys really kind of just give and take from each other. It's like, I think it's kind of like the Buccaneers with their top receivers in a way. You kind of know how much the group is going to get as a whole, but it's hard to tell kind of who's going to get what pieces of that.
Yeah, and then you're really splitting hairs trying to figure out where the value is with the number, and it's just tough because I think it can go either way most of the time.
And I think it's entirely dependent on Claypool's health, which is not something that I'm here to handicap. I think if Claypool is healthy, like fully healthy, I think he's probably more likely to go over, and especially Johnson at this 88 or 82 and a half number. I think that's way too high if Claypool is fully healthy. That being said, if Claypool is hobbled and is in that 50 to 60% snap range, I think that Johnson is good for 100 yards. So I don't want to touch either of these. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I'm basically the same as you looking at these. It was hard to figure out, like, do I like both? Do I like one or the other? And I don't like either. I mean, Johnson's number seems high, but at the same time, he gets that one catch for 25, 35 yards.
Yeah, or if Claypool only plays 50% of the snaps, Johnson's going to see 15 targets and have like 10 catches for 150 yards or something.
Exactly, and if the Steelers are down too, you could get 4 or 5 catches, or I should say 4 to 5 targets just on one drive alone, right?
So I'm going to actually pull this up. So let's see what, without Claypool or with a limited Claypool, what Deontay Johnson has done this year. So Chase Claypool missed week 4 completely with that injury. Johnson had 9 catches on 13 targets for 92 yards and a touchdown. Claypool also missed week 10 with an injury. Johnson had 7 catches on 13 targets for 83 yards. And then last week, Claypool was hobbled, only played 63% of the snaps, only had 3 targets, and Johnson had 8 catches on 11 targets for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it really is dependent on Claypool's health. Mm-hmm. And I think Johnson's gone over this number like once or twice, aside from that this year. And I hate handicapping players' health because we just don't know.
I was just looking at Dalvin Cook. That just seems like low-hanging fruit, but I'm not. No, I'm not gonna go.
Are you starting him in fantasy?
I am. Yeah.
You probably have to start him in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I have to. But I was looking at the 13.5, and I'm like, man, it's a low number. But we just don't know like where his health is at, and if they split carries. So staying away there.
I get to drop all my quarterbacks after today.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That's called a sucker bet though. If you take that 13.5 over, definitely it's calling your name.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell that fantasy story. My strategy that almost worked. I'm actually not unhappy with the way that it went. But so I'm gonna battle. So we have Ben and I are in a 14-team league. There's a punishment for last place. We have to do a beer mile. And it's me and another guy battling for last place this week. We're playing each other. Whoever wins is safe. Whoever loses has to do the beer mile. His only quarterback is Carson Wentz, who's on a bye this week. So I placed waiver claims for every quarterback that I could. And it's a fab league, so there's is a chance that I get all of them, even if he also tries to pick up a bunch of guys. I was trying to leave him with the choice of Jake Fromm or Zach Wilson or Davis Mills, basically, as his quarterback this week. I got everybody except for Roethlisberger.
And so that's who you picked up and who he's starting, right?
Yeah, so he's got Roethlisberger. My bench is completely full of quarterbacks I don't want. But after Roethlisberger's locked in for him, I can drop all those quarterbacks and scrounge the waiver wire again. I thought that was kind of funny. Ben, I was going to tell you, but I didn't completely trust you to not tell Craig.
Oh, some coercion.
Uh-huh. So
everyone's just picking up quarterbacks.
I could have also said, like, tossed you $50 and said, Ben, drop. No, I mean, that's a terrible idea. I would never actually do that. But I could have said, Ben, pick up, use your entire fab budget on all the quarterbacks, or like on these ones specifically.
Yeah, I have $13 in fab right now, so.
So yeah, hopefully that goes well. I should have actually healthy running backs this week, which is nice.
I should have too, but we'll find out with Dalvin Cook.
I mean, it's about time. When my team is healthy, it's great. But it's just everyone's hurt. Four wins on the year, won the $20 prize for biggest win of the week in 2 of those 4 wins.
Nick, I'm telling you, mark my word. This year of fantasy, it's going to change how people look at fantasy because the injuries were out of control this year.
Mm-hmm. I tried to adjust for it. I used 4 of my first 6 picks on running backs in a league with 2 running back spots and a flex.
Yeah.
And they literally have all been hurt.
But I just think it's going to change how leagues are constructed. I don't know if people look into alternatives. It's something that I've been thinking about.
No, I know you've been thinking about it. You've been talking about it a lot.
Yeah, and I mean,
there's definitely room for exploration.
You can't hit a guy in the head, so you can hit him in the legs 50 times a game. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's why we've seen so many leg injuries.
Yeah, you can't, and guys aren't even getting close to anywhere above the chest, right?
Mm-hmm.
The shoulder gets close to the head, that's a flag. So
yeah, so that's that.
Anything else with these guys, or are we good to get into the?
I say let's go ahead and get into our top picks for this game. I'm happy to start if you want to take a second.
Yeah, the one of 2 that one of the ones I'm going to go with. They're both pretty square, but whatever. You can start though.
That's fine. So I'm going to have my favorite bet of this game is going to be Zac Gentry over 7.5 receiving yards. Talked about it before. He should see 50+% of the snaps. He should see a couple targets. And I think on all that, he's good for these 7.5 pretty easily. What about you, Ben?
Alrighty. I think I'm going to go with... You know what? I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins over 255.5 passing yards.
And why is that?
I just think this number is too low. I also don't think they're going to pound the rock with Dalvin Cook. And I think Jefferson still has a decent game. They're going to get the ball moving. I like the value. It's just a value play for me.
Yeah, I like that play as well.
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk. Oh, yeah. Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
That's it's not my quarterback.
Yep. The second one was close to giving out was the Osborne over 3.5, but I like that one a lot too.
Yeah, I think that's a solid look, and I think they're correlated.
Yeah,
let's try and whip up an SGP real quick.
SGP
with Kirk Cousins over,
and then the full game under. Boom,
and
if we do that,
I guess I want reception.
It's got to be like plus 750. If we did the full game under and then Kirk Cousins, and we could even throw in Gentry in there too.
Yeah, let's see. So we've got.
Are you gonna do it on DraftKings?
So PointsBet doesn't have the receptions.
Oh,
in the
I haven't done one in a while, so.
No, neither have I.
I mean, you could do yards because they're very, very correlated. Obviously, not a lot of difference between 2, but.
Oh, this is weird. They have like strange numbers to choose from.
Yeah,
for
DraftKings
yards.
does things like completely different than every other book I've noticed with these same game parlays.
Oh, here. We can go like this. 250 plus for Kirk. That's like basically the same thing. Can find
Over 250.
why does Control FOSB not give me any results? Okay, KJ Osborne receptions over 3.5. That's the same as 4 plus.
Yep.
So those two is plus 190.
My favorite pick was Kirk Cousins over 255.
Yep, and my favorite was Zac Gentry over 7.5 receiving yards. So yeah, if you just want to do the Cousins yards over, Osborne receptions over, plus 190. Feels pretty good.
What if you do the full game?
The full game under,
You add it in there.
you're looking at plus 700.
See, there you go.
But yeah,
I mean, if I were to do it, I would throw that last one in there. Then it gets real fun. It's like the last drive, and you're like, I need 20 yards from Kirk Cousins, but I also can't have them score. That's how those play out sometimes.
yep. So yeah, I think
Alrighty.
that wraps up the stream for today. Thank you all, as always, for being here. We'll be back for sure on Sunday with some Week 14 NFL action, just going game by game. Not the super deep dive into the prop market, but still having model scores up for every game on Sunday. And then the next picks and props will, of course, be for Monday Night Football, which is being contested between what teams are on
That's a
Monday
good
Night Football?
question. Oh, it's got to be the. Is it the Rams?
Yeah, it is. It's the Rams. No, it's the.
I know who
It's
not.
the
It's not the
Viking.
Broncos.
Is it the Vikings and the Bears?
It can't be the Vikings.
Oh,
Vikings.
wait, no, that's next week's stuff. I scrolled over too far. They have
What is
look aheads up for next week up here. It's the it's the Rams and the Cardinals on
It's
Monday.
gonna be a good game.
It is. Stafford looks like he's back.
Yeah.
His back is back.
So.
So yeah,
Alrighty.
I think we're gonna sign off. Any last words?
Good luck to everyone, and Dalvin Cook, come through for me for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, I hope Ben Roethlisberger plays terribly.
There we go. Alrighty, guys.
Yep. Catch y'all next time.